So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to the USGS website. Then we'll just do DEM. We come here to the national map where it says data delivery, and then it'll bring you up to where you want to launch this. Now, what we want to do is we want to create this 3D representation of the topography in Robinson Forest, because Robinson Forest is a pretty cool place that we as the university manage forest there, and it's a really cool place. I enjoy being there. And this is a great place to kind of show off some of these 3D tools that we have on ArcGIS Pro. So we got to find it. The weird thing about this is you can use lat and long to find things here in the search bar. But I know where the address is, and I like to kind of look at these maps and just kind of like slip through them and things like that so I can see kind of where we're at. So I really need to find Breathitt is always where I start at. And lucky for me, we have quicksand right up here. And then here's 476, which is the road that leads to the forest there. We know if we follow along Troublesome Creek here along 476, we'll eventually run into Little Buckhorn Road. So right here's Little Buckhorn Road. We can see right here is the road that we take to go to Robinson Forest. It's right on the Breathitt Perry line. So we'll just go left here, up through it until we get to Clemens Fork here. So right here's Clemens Fork. And now we can see the camp. So the camp at Robinson Forest is located right here in this slither right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in here into elevation products. We're going to keep everything selected that way, 1 degree, GeoTIFF, great. We go for search products. Then here, when we click on this, we should see that we get our product here. So now what we want to do is we're going to download the link to the TIFF here. And we'll see here in my corner, since I'm using Google Chrome, we can see that it's being downloaded. We're going to give that a little bit before it's done downloading. So I can come here and see. So this is a pretty large file, by the way. We can see here that this is about 439 megabytes, which is almost a half a gig. So you got to keep in mind that these that we're downloading are pretty large files. So, but when we get it, we'll delete it and we'll clean it up a little bit, and I'll show you the process for cleaning it up here in a second. But for right now, we're just going to focus on this large file in our downloads folder. Then while that's downloaded, I'm also go ahead and launch ArcGIS Pro. Okay, so here we've launched ArcGIS Pro. I'm going to start a new map. I'm going to call it 3D. We'll call it 3D from the woods today. And just do map. Call it okay. Start it up. So here we already have a base map that starts out with street. But let's not do that. Let's actually do a base map that is, let's do a satellite base map, because I kind of like that. We'll do a satellite mix between we have UK imagery here. Don't want to use that one. Give me a second. We'll use imagery hybrid here. This imagery hybrid, we can see we still have a satellite map, and then we also have our roads layer. So we can still see our roads as well, which is pretty cool to me. So I also have on here a location for the Robinson Forest. So we're going towards here to Jackson. I'm going to add in my layer. I can also make this shapefile available for anybody that's interested in it. If they want to kind of go along and follow this module, that's perfectly fine. I'll get with Renee about how we can share that file and send it to people that want it on YouTube and things like that. So for now, let's go in here into documents. I have in my documents, here in GIS, I have Robinson Forest Boundary. We're going to add that shapefile. So now we can see here that I've added the outline for the Robinson Forest. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit. We're going to do a black outline, make it hollow. We're going to make that width a little bit larger so we can see the lines a little bit better. We'll make it about a 3. Now we can see our lines a little bit better there, right? And now we're also going to go ahead, we're going to go ahead and we're also going to add as soon as I can get there, we're going to add the DEM data that we just downloaded. We'll do big modified. There we go. So that should be our DEM TIFF that we'll get here. Once it's loaded, we'll go ahead and let it calculate. So this could take a second. So here we can see now that we have a DEM model of Robinson Forest here. And some access to. We can also see this for most of the southeastern central part of the state. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean this up. We're going to make this file a little less big. because we don't need all that. We don't need all that data to clog up our hard drive here, and then thus also make it harder for Arc to run it because then it has to run more has to run more bytes, more digits, which then in turn makes for longer loading processes. So what we want to do is we want to come in here into analysis, and we're going to go to raster functions. Okay, and we're going to clip raster. So we're going to do a clip function here and clip. And we're going to use this raster, obviously, that we have in there as our clip. We're going to do an inside clip. And we're going to use the Robinson boundary, force boundary. We're going to use the input feature for clipping geometry so we get a perfect one-to-one ratio with it, or at least as close to one-to-one perfect ratio as we can get. So for that, we have that, all our parameters, all that's good to go. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new layer with it. All right, now we can see here that we have a new layer. Oh, whoopsie. Well, it turns out that I did that as the wrong layer. I meant to do it as the outside, which was wrong on my part. So 1 second, let me do that. Let me fix that real quick. This happens in GIS sometimes. You always kind of it's easy to kind of accidentally make some mistakes when you're not really paying too close attention to it, or you're not kind of looking to what you're doing. So that was on me. But here, I'm going to leave that in this video so you see that it is that GIS, you are going to kind of make some mistakes, and these things can happen. But it's all right. You just got to kind of learn how to fix them, right? So no big deal on that part. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of this aerial imagery we have here for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off that base layer we have, and I'm also going to turn off this hybrid layer as well. So now we have just a look at Robinson Forest here. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go ahead back to our map tab. I'm going to paste it in here. We're going to paste another one in there. So the main thing we want to do now is we want to create a heel shape of this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to Analyze over here in our raster functions, and we're going to do heel shape. And we're going to make our Z factor 2 just to kind of give it a little bit more depth for it. You know, let's try to make sure I got the right ones. We're going to do clip USG. Yep, there we go. We're going to keep our azimuth in that degree, so that should hold it right. So now we have a heel shape effect, as you can see here. And we can kind of see that we have our ridges built in here, but this isn't a super great look. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually move our clip up in front of this, which will go on top of it. Got to give it a second to load. My apologies. Okay, there you go. So now it's on top of it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to give this a different property effect. So we're going to go to the symbology here. We're going to change this color scheme to, I like the greens to reds, as it shows a better percentage of it. Got to give it a second to load. I apologize again. So now we have this value here. And what we want to do now is we want to kind of make this transparent so we can see the heel shape with it. So we're going to come in here into raster layer, and we see transparency here. I'm going to make this 50% usually a pretty good number to go with. So now we can see here that we have our contour elevations in here that allows us to see kind of our ridge lines a little better. You can see we almost now have a heel effect, right? So you can see your mountains or your ridges, whatever you want to call them. We can see kind of our river contours here, or I'm sorry, not a river, but our valley contours and some of the stream contours when you get in there and look into it. So yeah, we have this map now here made in Robinson Forest, but we want to see it in a three-dimensional light. But I'm also going to do one more quick little thing I'm going to show you. We're going to make contour lines on this to kind of show the various, the elevation change in steepness at a more visually appealing way. So we're going to come in here into our raster analysis. We're going to go to analysis. I'm going to go back to raster functions. And this time I'm going to type in contour. And then contours right here. So we'll add the DEM, is this one. And then we're going to make it We're gonna make our contour intervals about 25, 100 for these. We don't get a huge, these are steep mountains, but they're not actually super tall. So we don't get a huge amount of elevation change that you would actually think in these mountainous parts of Eastern Kentucky. We're gonna go ahead and create this layer. And now we can see here we have our ridge lines, our contour lines developed inside of this as well that shows these elevation changes. So you can kind of see here where we get more towards our ridge tops, obviously, and then we can see as we get to our valleys. So one thing that's pretty cool to do now is I'm going to go in here into, we're going to go into view, and we're going to convert, because we want to see this in a three-dimensional plane. So we're going to go to convert to local scene. All right. So now we have our three-dimensional view of Robinson Forest and kind of almost a 3D layout here. And we want to see it at a different angle. So let's go ahead. Let's expand this, bring this up to a different angle. So these things are a little bit finicky, but now we can come in here and we can kind of change the elevation gradient here. We can kind of get down and see some of what these three-dimensional shapes of this area are. And you can sit here and you can kind of, once you do this, you can kind of come in here and play with this and see these contour lines and see how all this elevation changes here and just how you have this three-dimensional view. And you can do this with anywhere in the United States that has the DEM, or anywhere that has DEM data attainable. Most of the United States, I'm pretty positive, has DEM data available, so you can try this for things like property lines. If you're thinking about buying a farm or some land, you can see kind of, you can come here and see the steepness of it and view what it would look like on the ground here. And you have to give it a second to load, and we can see that we're getting more close to our valleys. We can see the changes, and this is an actual 3D representation of our world, especially within Eastern Kentucky there. So pretty cool stuff, if you ask me.